My name is Mark Jones. I work for the Born Free Foundation and I'm a vet by training. I'd like to start by saying that we're gathered here to protest against the policy of our government to licence the culling of badgers, an issue which we're all really passionate about, and that we're here today because that issue is being debated across the road there in Parliament this afternoon as a result of Simon King's e-petition reaching 100,000 signatures last month. Now, all of this is possible because we live in a liberal democracy where we vote for our representatives and in which we have the right to challenge them when we don't agree with the decisions they make or the policies they pursue. And the actions of those who would challenge these rights can never be allowed to prevail. That's why I firmly believe the best way we can pay tribute to those who lost their lives last week, their families, friends and colleagues, and the police and emergency services who put themselves in danger to keep us safe, is by continuing to exercise our democratic rights and uphold the principles of our liberal democracy. So thank you for coming today. Long may our right to gather peacefully in this way be upheld. On a cold February day back in 2012, I stood close to this very spot, just down there actually, with a crowd of people, including MPs from across all the major parties, colleagues from wildlife organisations, and Bill Oddie, who was there, and made a short speech on why the government's proposals to introduce badger culls in England were unscientific, ineffective, inhumane and unnecessary. Now, on that day, I never imagined I'd be standing here 5 years later, lamenting the cruel and pointless slaughter of nearly 15,000 badgers over the past 4 years, and contemplating the deaths of tens of thousands more over the coming years. Back in 2012, I quoted Natural England's estimates that if culling is rolled out to its fullest extent, as many as 130,000 badgers might be shot over a period of a few short years, reducing England's badgers by a third and the populations in the west and southwest of England by about a half. Now, I never imagined on that day that this might actually come to pass. I guess I naively assumed everybody would have come to their senses long before now, and that this crazy policy would have long since been abandoned. But these kind of numbers are likely to become a reality as ministers and officials at DEFRA and NFU officials continue to insist that the culls should be rolled out to new areas and extended over ever longer periods. DEFRA and the National Farmers Union keep insisting that the culls that have been carried out to date have been successful. But we need to keep reminding them of the basis on which the cull licences are being issued. These licences are granted to cull companies in order to prevent the spread of disease. They have no other purpose. They're not issued because there are too many badgers, or because badgers are a nuisance, or because they occasionally take hedgehogs, or for any other spurious reason. They're issued under the Protection of Badgers Act and the Wildlife and Countryside Act to prevent the spread of disease, and by this we mean the spread of bovine TB to cattle. But after 4 years of culling in the two so-called pilot zones in Gloucestershire and Somerset, there's no evidence whatsoever that the spread of bovine TB has been prevented. Now, while TB continues to reap havoc for farmers and their cattle in the west of England, the government in Wales has been far more successful in bringing down TB in cattle without killing a single badger through targeted, evidence-based cattle measures and cattle trading restrictions. As a result, since 2008, new herd incidents of bovine TB in Wales have fallen by 41%, and the number of herds under restriction have declined by 64%, whereas in England, TB rates in cattle have remained roughly the same over that period. Recognising the limitations of the cattle skin test, which misses as many as 1 in 2 infected cattle, leaving them to spread infection within and between herds, the Welsh Government has introduced additional testing to improve this situation. By contrast, in England, badgers are being scapegoated for these shortcomings in the testing regime, and proposals to introduce additional testing only in areas where badger culling is ongoing will give DEFRA and the NFU the excuse to claim badger culls are responsible for reductions in TB when it's actually down to improved improve cattle testing. DEFRA is also completely failing to ensure the cull companies are sticking to their licence conditions. Monitoring of the contractors has been woefully inadequate. During 2016, less than 2% of controlled shooting events were monitored by Natural England, and the proposals for monitoring going forward suggest that it'll be cut back even further. Self-reporting by shooting contractors who have a vested interest in achieving culling targets obviously cannot be relied on. And anyone who read Anna Dale's excellent essay on biosecurity, has anybody seen that?
Yes.
Yes.
We realise that the efforts to ensure culling contractors stick to the licence conditions and are held to account when they don't have been absolutely woeful. Of course, this isn't just a numbers game. Around half of all the badgers that are being killed, as Dominic pointed out, are the victims of so-called controlled shooting. That's men with rifles targeting free-roaming badgers attracted to bait points at night with peanuts or some other tasty treat. Controlled shooting has been rejected by both the government's independent expert panel, which consisted of a number of prominent vets, as well as by the British Veterinary Association, because of concerns about its accuracy and the impacts on badger welfare. Yet shooters continue to be licensed to kill badgers by this method with virtually zero oversight and very little real resistance from the veterinary authorities. And as a veterinarian myself, I have to say I've been really ashamed of the veterinary profession's response to this particular situation. And just imagine the impact these culls will be having on badgers that survive them. These are highly social creatures that live in close-knit families and communities. When virtually all of your family and clan members are killed over a short period, the impacts on the surviving badgers must be absolutely horrific. Yet no one in government, or the chief veterinary officer or his advisors, seem to be taking this into account in their welfare assessments, and that to me as a vet is simply not good enough. These culls are indiscriminate. The vast majority of badgers being targeted will be perfectly healthy, and they pose no risk to anyone or anything. Hardly any of the animals have been tested for bovine TB, and there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that the culls are having any impact on the spread of disease in cattle. Ladies and gentlemen, the government's badger culling policy in England is unscientific, indiscriminate, ineffective, inhumane, and completely unnecessary. Killing these animals won't help farmers struggling to cope with TB in their herds. What it will do is cause horrific suffering and massive disruption to one of our supposedly protected and most iconic wild mammals at a huge cost to both farmers and to the taxpayer. However difficult it may seem, we must continue to oppose this policy. Today it's badgers suffering government licence persecution. Tomorrow it'll be foxes or birds of prey or otters. And before we know it, our precious wild animals will be reduced to a few remnants scattered across these islands. So thank you for coming and showing your support for badgers today. Please keep doing so. Please keep supporting badgers using your hard-won democratic rights. Keep responding to the consultations, signing the petitions, writing to your MPs and political representatives, and supporting the peaceful protests here at Westminster and on the ground in the cull zone. This madness must end before badgers in the west of England become a thing of the past, and we must urge all the MPs attending this afternoon's debate to call for the abandonment of this disastrous and damaging policy. Thank you very much.